What the hell is David Lynch doing in the Fabelmans? If you haven't seen it or heard of it by now, director David Lynch has an important cameo in the closing moments of Spielberg's latest film. Neil Young, the critic, noticed that directors turned actors was a 2022 trend. David Gordon Green, the director of the last 3 Halloween installments, played Bradley in Bones and All.
Goddamn, my name is Brad, man.
The documentarian Frederick Wiseman played a gynecologist in Other People's Children. The director of Repo Man played the last man on Mad God. Giallo master Dario Argento played the lead in Gaspar Noé's Vortex, and Abel Ferrara played the novelist in the yet-to-be-released Italian film Soldato sotto la luna. All these directors showing up in other people's films begs the question, what does this mean?
Do you know what this means?
No, what does it mean?
Since the dawn of film, directors have always acted. Here you can see crisp footage of Georges Méliès in 1904's Untamable Whiskers. So the trend is clearly not something completely new. What seems to be different is that those 6 directors I mentioned are acting in other people's films.
That's right.
Directors acting in their own films is for the most part a question of practicality. If a role can be filled at no extra cost, what's the problem?
What's the problem?
The entire mumblecore movement was built on that principle, with directors acting in their own films and on their friends' films as well. It makes a fun little 6 degrees of separation game. This is Ronald Bronstein in Josh and Benny Safdie's Daddy Longlegs. These are the Safdies in Yeast, a film directed by Rachel Bronstein, the director of photography and co-star of Ronald Bronstein's Frownland. I believe they're married, but we're straying way too far from the goal. We're looking for directors who aren't known for acting, who have had roles in other people's films. An early example is Otto Preminger, director of Laura, Carmen Jones, The Man with the Golden Arm, Bonjour Tristesse. Basically, if it had an early Saul Bass title sequence, he directed. But as an actor, he delivered an interesting performance as Oberst von Scherbach in Stalag 17.
Nobody has ever escaped from Stalag 17. Not alive, anyway.
Earlier still, we could find Erich von Stroheim, the director of Greed and other silent films. As an actor, he's best known for his role as Max von Mayerling in Sunset Boulevard.
If you need any help with the coffin, call me.
However, a very cursory investigation shows that while Stroheim has directed 12 films, and some very good ones, he had a surprising tally of 77 acting roles.
Yes.
So maybe the criteria still needs some refinement. Going by directors who aren't known for acting has some inherent flaws. Some people to this day still think of Spike Jonze as the other guy in Three Kings.
Kaboom! Y'all see that cow's head shoot up? It's like a cartoon, it's fucking crazy.
But as you might know, his resume as a director is far richer and heftier. 107 directing credits versus 26 as an actor. So maybe a number is in order. A number that says director first, actor second.
Give me a number, a percentage.
We're looking for people who have directed 3 times more films than the ones they've acted in. So Victor Sjöström is out. The protagonist of Ingmar Bergman's Wild Strawberries was a famed director with 55 credits, but also acted in 45 films. Surprisingly, Martin Scorsese barely makes it. 33 acting credits.
Mercy.
Even if counting a poster in the Michael Jackson music video he directed as an acting credit is a bit of a stretch, but among his performances listed, some are more than respectable. He dyed his bushy eyebrows to play Vincent van Gogh in Akira Kurosawa's Dreams.
I work, I slave, I drive myself like a locomotive.
And he was pretty good in Quiz Show.
See, the audience didn't tune in to watch some amazing display of intellectual ability. They just wanted to watch the money.
John Huston was another surprise.
You may think you know what you're dealing with, but believe me, you don't.
The director of Treasure of the Sierra Madre has more acting than directing credits. He was certainly a terrific performer with a thunderous voice. However, I've always thought of him as a director first, even with his career-making performances as Noah Cross and, of course, Gandalf the Grey.
Enough! I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me!
But surprise number 1 has to be David Cronenberg. I was befuddled to find out that the director of The Fly, known to most of you in the future as the father of Brandon Cronenberg, has not only acted in the past, but had almost as many acting roles as directing credits.
I loved it when that head exploded. I loved it!
He did some voice work, had plenty of TV roles, and a terrific performance in Nightbreed.
Thanks.
Notably, in 38 roles, he almost never played himself. One terrific exception was his appearance in the TV show The Newsroom, the Canadian one from the late 90s.
Our guest, of course, Mr. David Cronenberg, director of the audacious, daring, and original Crash. Cut. Good. We're getting another feed right now, another pre-packaged item. They want to know if you'll stay right there. Do you mind?
No. What's the story?
We could have a nuclear plant meltdown within 35 minutes, 20 miles from here. Another Chernobyl, actually. With us on site right now at Reactor 6.
That should be a caveat as well. Directors who mostly play themselves don't count. I'm looking at you, Jim Jarmusch, as Jim Jarmusch in just about everything.
Hey, that's him! Who are you?
I try to answer that question in my films.
What else?
I can eat a raw onion without crying.
Prove it, Hollywood! You're crying.
Yeah, but I'm crying about something else.
How do you judge someone? What is his criteria even? It's so subjective.
Okay, the criteria is being a director first, having 3 times more directing credits than acting credits, not always playing themselves. Take all these qualifiers and who are we left with? Quite a few people, it turns out. Jim Jarmusch, for example, despite mostly playing himself, accepted the invitation to play Bob in 1995's Blue in the Face and give a memorable speech about the last cigarette.
But having a cigarette after sex, that's like, cigarette never tastes like that, you know? Share a cigarette with your lover.
Oh, that's bliss.
That I'm gonna miss. Also with coffee and cigarettes, you know? That's like breakfast of champions.
Then we have Werner Herzog.
Cool, is that a staircase to nowhere?
Yes, it is. Good eye.
What was this place?
Remember the Pawnee doll head factory?
This was a doll head factory?
No, this was a holding cell for people who went insane on the assembly line.
Sure, he leans a lot into a parody of his public persona, but his late career turn as Hollywood's go-to villain came out of nowhere.
You should never have involved him. Now you will have to convince him to forget for your sake and for his. You say nothing, but I see defiance in your eyes. That is a look I've seen many, many times. When the soldier comes, when you watch how he dies, it will change you. You will want to forget me then.
If you want to go back in time, a classic example is Jean-Pierre Melville, director of Le Samouraï and Le Cercle Rouge. Sorry, I've exhausted my French. In Godard's Breathless, he delivers the most classic of film lines.
Quelle est votre plus grande ambition dans la vie?
Devenir immortel, et puis mourir.
Further east, Taiwanese director Hu Xianshan was the protagonist of Edward Yang's Taipei Story. One master director as a lead in another master director's work. Now that's a pretty uncommon occurrence. In Hollywood, we can point to Truffaut in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Sam Peckinpah in The Visitor, apparently so hard to work with that only one scene was usable, and more recently Ty West in You're Next, Miki Takashi in Eli Roth's Hostel. We could go on, but I bet that by now you're starting to wonder if this video is just an excuse to show clips from directors acting. I must confess that you're mostly right, but let's get back to the original line of questioning: why the hell is David Lynch in The Fabelmans and what does that mean? The answer to the first question is simple. Mark Harris suggested him, his Tony Kushner's husband, who when hearing about the idea of casting Lynch for the role of John Ford thought, oh my god, and called Steven Spielberg, and Steven Spielberg said, oh my god, but he'll never do it. And then he thought Laura Dern. So he called Laura Dern and Laura Dern called David and it happened.
Alright.
Simple as that. The answer to the second question, what does that mean? That one is even simpler. Nothing. At least I don't see anything new here. As we've seen, directors have always acted in other people's films. The reasoning behind it, I imagine, has always been more or less the same. Directors understand acting, and most importantly, Hollywood is a small place. Tim Burton shows up in Cameron Crowe's Singles because the film was shot in Seattle and he was in the area prepping his version of Superman, the Nicolas Cage one. Joan Giammarco here popped up on Batman Returns a few months later. So it's conceivable they were friends and he was just a phone call away.
He is only like the next Martin Scorsese.
Monsieur Barbulesco?
The part of Parvulesco was originally written for Roberto Rossellini, the great neo-realist director. Here the goal was clear, to have an old master play a great writer. Lynch, Cox, Ferrara, Argento, Wiseman, they're all old film masters, so maybe there's something there. A new stream of talent to play reverential figures. To be continued, I guess. If you're disappointed with these conclusions, I hope this at least makes it up to you. Here's the entire last scene from The Fabelmans.
You stand there.
So there are two guys and they're on horseback and they're looking for something, so maybe they're...
Read the card.
Yeah, it's at the bottom.
Timing. You gotta get them, you gotta tell them. Come back on Wednesday. Go. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you.